So in the last video that I made, I I specifically went out of my way to say that my most look forward game this year is Final Fantasy 15, and that's and I just want to specifically talk about something that has been getting the game a lot of flack recently, and that is that Tabata, I believe that's his name, came out and stated that the game is not going to be 100% true open world. And what he means by that is the first half of the game is open world. No restrictions. You can just do whatever the hell you want. Uh, and uh, and The second half of the game, the latter half, is going to be it's going to be a more linear experience, and it's going to be a lot more story driven. And like, I'm pretty sure you guys get my point. And that's been given that's given the game kind of a negative light because uh, well, years ago it was confirmed that the game would be truly open world, and uh, that I understand making an open world game because believe me, they can be fun. It's fun as fuck. But uh, you, there is this negative stigma that linear games have that it's a lot more that the main stigma. I'm just going to summarize real quick is that linear is by default bad, and really that's not the case. If you look at games like uh, the Telltale games, uh, the Uncharted games, The Last of Us, Final Fantasy X, uh, even the Final Fantasy 13 games, uh, and then let's not even forget Heavy Rain. Games like uh, those games are linear, and that actually works to the game's benefit because uh, the main reason you'd want to make a linear game is to tell a compelling story, and that's what I think that not a lot of people really understand about uh, gaming because you 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 got all these options that you have to make to make an effective game, and if you try to have this grandiose plot and then try to mix it with open world, it's not going to be as epic as you think. Because if Uncharted was open world, it wouldn't be that it wouldn't be able to go to the variety of locations that it could. It wouldn't be able to have the stories and characters that it could, or that it does have. Uh, and and it's because of this thing, just this negative stigma that linear games are by default bad, and even uh, so, really, that's just the point I want to make here. So, uh, I really don't care about the game on the second half being turned into a more linear experience uh, because when you really get down to it, I honestly don't want to be spending uh, 200 or 150 to 200 hours because that's how long that they're estimating the 100% completion. And believe me, I'll be playing the shit out of the game day one because I have that shit pre-ordered. Uh, so and honestly, I'm disappointed that the delay happened, but I'm not exactly mad. Uh, but back to my point, uh, I don't want to exactly be spending you know over 100 hours just roaming around this huge, almost empty world. Because, like, frankly, the world is going to have a lot in it, but if it's going to be like really huge, I'd like the story to be a bit more compelling because uh, one of the open world games that had a really good story, but because you didn't, because it was open world, and I mean truly open world, because of that, this game is Final Fantasy 14, the MMO game. From what I hear, I haven't played the game, so sorry, a lot of the Final Fantasy 14 fans. I haven't played the game, but I hear it's got an amazing story, one that's truly worthy of being called a Final Fantasy game. And uh, but but the main problem I hear that Final Fantasy 14 suffers from, with story wise, is that because it's truly open world and you can do whatever the hell you want, uh, you can easily end up doing this side quest, leading to this side quest, leading to that side quest, and so on and so forth until you decide, oh shit, I gotta go back to the main story missions, and that leads to the result of you being overpowered for the missions, and furthermore, it just makes it just and then it ruins the pacing of the game, the story, and when you do this, it ruins the story a bit. Not like completely, but it does water down the story. So my point is, if Final Fantasy 14 was linear, I guarantee you it'd be on the same level as The Last of Us, the Uncharted games, in terms of story quality. But because it's open world, it held the game back, and that's the point I want to make here. Square Enix, to my understanding, are trying to make 15 a compelling story with all these characters you can relate to. And based on what I see of the main characters, that's going to be the case. I mean, I can relate to Noctis as fuck, man. But you gotta understand that uh, that that if a game isn't open world, it can still be good, and that's what I feel like a lot of gamers these days don't seem to understand. Now, now should every game be linear? Should every game, just be Uncharted or Heavy Rain, The Last of Us? Certainly not. I mean, because when you try to make a game, you want to strike a balance between it being fun and telling a compelling story, and then all these different factors. And uh, now, if story is your main priority, I'd say just go linear. Make it a linear game, because if you want to focus on the story, it'll being a linear game. It'll allow you the most freedom uh, to just to tell a story. But if you just want to give the player a sense of just being this badass, this badass who can kill everything that moves, slays everything that lives, and just doesn't give a flying fuck, then then make it open world, because like for example, take Saints Row 4. I played well, I didn't play the shit out of the game. I just beat the game and just moved on. But the point is, when I was playing the game, I felt like a fucking badass. I will not lie. I felt like a badass. So my point is, it just depends on the experience that you want to give the player, and uh, if you want, if the developer wants to tell a compelling story, it should be linear. Uh, and I feel like Final Fantasy 15 is trying to appeal to ultimately everyone, and I don't have a problem with that. But there is just the drawback that it might turn some people off, which I can understand. If you primarily play open world games, this might upset you a bit. But please don't just say I'm canceling my pre-order now because the game isn't truly 100% open world. Uh, and that's all I wanted to say. Just if you guys agree, let me know. I don't know. That's just my thoughts on it. And honestly, I think it's valid. I might be wrong. I might be high on drugs. I don't know. But where would I get the drugs?